So how we get this badge off, we're going to be using a bit of builder string that'll get behind there to be able to peel the badge off, and to clean the foam that's left behind, we're going to use a caramel wheel. I'll show you how that's done. What we have here is a caramel wheel. I'm guessing the name derives from the smell it produces. It literally smells like caramel. What it is just, I'm guessing it's like a rubber of some sort. All it's doing is creating friction to remove the foam adhesive backing, but it's not enough to wreck the paint. Well, I guess you could wreck the paint, but yeah, you'd be having to hammer it pretty hard. Not too sure how well this is going to show on the camera, but a lot of the time once you remove a badge, you can see the imprint in there. Obviously sometimes it's faded paint, but majority of the time, just from vibrations of the car, you'll see like where it sort of scratched the clear coat or sort of imprinted itself into the clear. So that's why we need to wet sand it and then give it a buff up. Just pulled these badges off here. Now we're going to attempt to remove those little override things, and also here on the back. Just use the builder string to get behind and rip the foam off, same as the badges. Now to get rid of that mess with the caramel wheel. So what we're left with is this marking, as you can see along here. That's just from vibrations and the little override to get into the paint. So what we do there is just wet sand it, and that'll get it all out. The wet sanding's all done on the car. We used 2000 wet and dry, done that by hand. They finished off with 3000 and 5000 on the DA. You'll see a few patches all over the car, as to be expected. A few areas like that. Some more around this side here. Now at a stage we can give it a cut now and finish off with polish. Car's all polished up now, that took a whole day. Looks a lot better than it was, but it's far from perfect. If I was gonna ceramic coat the car, then you'd get every single little scratch out of it. But for what this car's worth, and I say there's next to no profit in it, so it's not really worth overcapitalizing in time on this thing. But anyhow, it's gonna be some good learning for you all. We're just about to do a demo on the boot to show you the difference between all the compounds and the terminology when it comes to polishing a car. What we're going to do now is run you through the basic terminology and steps when it comes to polishing a car. You would have heard all these fancy words used on Instagram and YouTube, but I'll just keep it really simple and show you the difference between the different steps and what products we use and what you end up achieving. So first one, we're going to be doing clay. Then we'll just put a wax over this scratched up paint, just to show you what it can do and how it can hide stuff. Next one, we'll just do cutting compound only, and you'll see the difference there between that stage there and the cut and buff. So this stage here, you'll see holograms and whatnot, but we'll see that shortly. Cutting and polishing, so that's your finished product there. That's how it'll be once we do this section here. This one here is cut and polish as well, and with a little jeweling top coat. So there can be a glaze or a wax, or there's heaps of different words for it, but we'll keep it all simple. And we'll leave this patch here to show the original condition. So now we'll be able to go through it all and show you the difference. So here we have it, here's our paint. As you can see, it's pretty hammered. It's not the worst paint in the world. It's just your classic paint with a car that's just been washed and hasn't really been overly cared for. So what we're going to do is use clay. Here's our clay here. It comes in many different forms. It comes in a mitt form. You can get clay blocks. In the day it's all same. It just whatever you prefer to use. What clay does is basically it takes off all the contamination in your paint. So when you run your hand over the paint, can't really hear it, but it sounds like real scratchy, like it's sandy. So what we need to do is use a bit of lubricant on the surface and run your clay over it. So with the clay, you just keep going. You can't probably hear it in the camera, but you just keep going until you hear the surface is nice and smooth. It doesn't sound like sandpaper. And that's basically all clay is. It gets rid of all your contamination. So that's the clay all done. Real simple process. Now it's nice and smooth. You hear this side here, sounds rough, and that side here, smooth as. And you see the difference. So it ain't going to make your paint any shinier. Sometimes you get a bit of clarity in it because all it's done is taken off that little light surface on the top, all that contamination off the top. Next up we have glaze. So all I've done with this surface here is given it a clay bar just so it doesn't wreck the pad and clog up the pad. So what instance you'd use a glaze, you may be asking? Well, you use glazes and waxes when you're short for time or money. So say if you're basically like a car dealer, what they'll do, they'll put a glaze or a wax over a car and you wonder why after a few car washes it ends up looking like this again. So I'll show you how we apply it. What we're going to be using is a little DA rotary buffer. So one from Super Cheap Auto. And we'll be using this stuff here. The only reason I'm using CarPro is just because I'm going to use the whole range just to show you how it works, but I'm not brand specific at all. I use anything from CarPro and 3D, so both those brands are as good as each other. So you've seen in the short amount of time what we've done. So that goes to show how quick you can hide these scratches. So that's your marring there. You come on this side, check that clarity out. That's solely from a little glaze. So that glaze there will probably last about 3 months. Then once it's all gone, it'll end up looking the same as the side here. So it goes to show how you can use products to benefit whatever you're trying to achieve. Big difference. Next up what we have, we're going to be doing the cutting stage. So as I said before, I've already clay barred the whole boot lid now. And we're going to be using this CarPro Ultra Cut. This is actually super good stuff. I've used quite a few compounds, but yeah, by far this will probably be my favourite cutter for sure. So we're going to use a rotary buffer this time with a wool pad. There's many different forms the wool pad comes in, but this is the first one I grabbed, and yeah, we'll show you the results, eh? That's our cutting stage all done. Check that out. The metallic's popping now, heaps of clarity and depth into the paint. Compared to this side here, you can see all the scratch marks. There's actually a big scratch there. Not too sure if it's going to show. It actually breached into this side and basically it's gone. So what the cutting compound is actually doing, it's a real coarse abrasive, and you pair it up with a coarse pad. So that's where you get those hologram marks. So if you weren't getting the hologram marks, it means that the compound or the pad you're using is too fine. So what the cutting stage does is actually superficially removing a layer of the clear, hence why these scratches are permanently removed, like we're talking in the microns, but that's basically the cutting stage done. So giving that a quick cut back, don't need to repeat that process. What we're going to be using to polish it, this CarPro Reflect. So there we have it. Goes our cutting side. See all the holograms and beautiful cut and polish paint. That's exactly how I leave a paint. You don't really need a glaze, as you'll see shortly. So that's basically all I ever do. Cut it back and polish it. 2 compounds, 2 pads, a polishing pad and a wool pad. That's it. Check that out. Better than new. So now we're at the grand finale when it comes to cutting and buffing. You know, you hear all these fancy words, people throwing it on with the old stage 1, stage 2, all these paint correction terms and all that carry on, but basically there's nothing to it, as you can see. You cut it back, you polish it, and that's it. And then as for this stage here, we'll do cut polish and add a top coat. And I'm going to show you that this new technology, you basically don't need to be using a top coat because it comes up so clear to start with. You watch the difference between this side here and that side there, there'll be basically nothing. So yet again, you're just wasting time, money and energy by chucking another top coat on. So let's see how it turns out. So here we have it all done. Let's go and compare the lot now. So let's crack on to the comparison. Here we go. So there it is there. It's our clay. Glaze and wax, so that works a treat, eh? It's a good fake it to make it. Hence why all the dealers use it. So you're basically going from that rough paint there, one stage, it looks just the same as this polished stage. Look at that. Any help? This is not a permanent fix. We have our cutting stage, holograms to be expected. Have our cut and polish stage there, so nice and clear. That's a permanent fix there. Unlike the glaze, you can wash this with wax and grease remover, it's going to still look the same. What's our next one? So we've got the cut, polish, and the top coat, that glaze we used just back there on that other panel. So as I was saying before, with technology, look, you can't even tell the difference, so you're sort of wasting time putting a top coat on this new stuff. As this was just a demo, I didn't go all out and try and get all the panels perfect. It was just a quick way to show the difference between everything. You can even see it without the light, the original paint. There. See where the tape was. So one more time, so you can see it all. Try and get the label in. There. Glaze, cutting compound, polish, polish and glaze, back to our original painting. There we have it. Those are the basic steps of polishing a car.